All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I'm Abhishek Mukhopadhyay, with me Saira Mujtaba. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds bilateral talks with his British counterpart Boris Johnson. Two leaders decide to conclude free trade agreement by the end of this year. India and UK signed 6 MOUs. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman discusses COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine conflict with World Bank President. Chief Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra urges Indian diaspora to register as overseas voters. Delhi government issues guidelines to prevent spread of COVID in schools. Dr. Suman K. Berry appointed new Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog. Supreme Court rejects Maharashtra Minister and NCP leader Nawab Malik's bail plea in money laundering case. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow next week over Ukraine war. And in IPL cricket, Rajasthan Royals beat Delhi Capitals by 15 runs in Mumbai. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his UK counterpart Boris Johnson reviewed the comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries during the bilateral talks in New Delhi yesterday. Issues of defence and security cooperation, cyber security and space also figured in the discussion between the two leaders. Addressing a joint press briefing following the bilateral talks, Prime Minister Modi said, India and United Kingdom have decided to do their best to conclude the free trade agreement by the end of this year.
हमारी बातचीत में आगामी समय के लिए कुछ लक्ष्य भी तय किए। फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट के विषय पर दोनों देशों की टीम्स काम कर रही हैं। बातचीत में अच्छी प्रगति हो रही है और हमने इस साल के अंत तक एफटीए के समापन की दिशा में पूरा प्रयास करने का निर्णय लिया है। हमने रक्षा क्षेत्र में सहयोग बढ़ाने पर भी सहमति व्यक्त की है। रक्षा क्षेत्र में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, टेक्नोलॉजी, डिजाइन और डेवलपमेंट सभी क्षेत्रों में यूके द्वारा आत्मनिर्भर भारत के समर्थन का हम स्वागत करते हैं।
Mr. Modi said both countries have decided to deepen climate and energy partnership and invited UK to join India's national hydrogen mission. Both leaders also discussed the developments taking place at the regional and global level. Prime Minister Modi said they emphasized on maintaining the Indo-Pacific region based on free, open, inclusive and rules-based order.
हमने क्षेत्रीय और वैश्विक स्तर पर हो रहे अनेक डेवलपमेंट्स पर भी चर्चा की। एक फ्री, ओपन, इंक्लूसिव एंड रूल बेस्ड ऑर्डर पर आधारित इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र बनाए रखने पर हमने जोर दिया। इंडो पैसिफिक ओशन इनिशिएटिव से जुड़ने के यूके के निर्णय का भारत स्वागत करता है।
Mr. Modi said they stressed on dialogue and diplomacy in Ukraine for an immediate ceasefire and resolution of the problem. They also reiterated the importance of respect for the territorial integrity and sovereignty of all countries.
हमने सभी देशों की क्षेत्रीय अखंडता और संप्रभुता के सम्मान का महत्व भी दोहराया। हमने एक पीसफुल, स्टेबल और सिक्योर अफगानिस्तान और एक इंक्लूसिव और रिप्रेजेंटेटिव गवर्नमेंट के लिए अपना समर्थन दोहराया। यह आवश्यक है कि अफगान भूमि का प्रयोग अन्य देशों में आतंकवाद फैलाने के लिए नहीं होना चाहिए।
In his statement, the visiting Prime Minister Johnson said the partnership between India and Britain is one of the defining friendships of the times. He pointed out since last year the threats of autocratic coercion have grown even further, and it is vital to deepen cooperation including shared interest in keeping the Indo-Pacific open and free.
Britain is one of the oldest, and India, certainly the largest democracy, is one of the defining friendships of our times. And what we're doing is taking forward an ambitious 10-year roadmap for British-Indian relations that we agreed last year. And it's vital that we deepen our cooperation, including our shared interest in keeping the Indo-Pacific open and free. So we've agreed a new and expanded defence and security partnership, a decades-long commitment that will not only forge tighter bonds between us, but support your goal of Make in India. Two agreements were also exchanged following the bilateral talks. Briefing media last evening after the talks, Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla said defence and security cooperation was another key focus area for the British Prime Minister's visit.
He said both leaders held detailed discussion on opportunities for defense collaborations, particularly co-development and co-production of advanced defense technologies. They welcomed the establishment of a mechanism on maritime electric propulsion. Prime Minister Modi invited British industries to take advantage of India's modern defense ecosystem and make in India to meet the needs of the armed forces of India as well as those of other countries. India and United Kingdom have signed 6 memorandums of understanding. Of the 6 MOUs exchanged, 2 are government to government, while 4 are non-governmental. The MOUs were signed after Prime Minister Narendra Modi held bilateral talks with his British counterpart Boris Johnson during his 2-day visit to India. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman met World Bank President David Malpass in Washington yesterday. They discussed several key economic issues, including India's continued recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and impact of Russia-Ukraine conflict. They also discussed India's upcoming G20 presidency and World Bank leadership in India. During the meeting, the Finance Minister stated that India's pandemic response has focused on the twin goals of saving lives and livelihoods. India has been successfully running the world's second-largest vaccination program, administering more than 1.85 billion doses of vaccines, she said. The Finance Minister also suggested that multilateralism has become more critical as the world is undergoing a phase of exceptional uncertainty. Ms. Sitharaman mentioned that India remains concerned about the risks to global recovery due to rising uncertainty amidst enhanced geopolitical tensions. She also highlighted India's roadmap for infrastructure development.
Chief Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra has urged members of the Indian community to register as overseas voters. He also told the NRI community that extension of electronically transmitted postal ballot system or ETPBS facility to overseas voters is being contemplated. A delegation led by Mr. Chandra visited South Africa and Mauritius. During this visit, a series of meetings were held with the Election Commission of South Africa and Mauritius, as well as interactions with the large NRI community in the two countries. During an interaction with the members of the Indian community, CEC urged them to register as overseas voters as the present numbers are abysmally low. During the visit to the two countries, a briefing-cum-interaction was organized with the NRI community at Cape Town and Johannesburg and at Port Louis. He said over the past few years, Indian elections have made steady progress towards making elections inclusive and accessible, which has led to greater participation of women, persons with disabilities and senior citizens in Indian elections. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will visit Assam today to participate in a function honouring the war heroes of 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War. The Assam government has decided to honour the personnel of the armed forces from the state who sacrificed their lives and who had participated in the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War in a special program at Guwahati. The state government will honour a total of 105 personnel who had participated in the 1971 war, including 9 personnel from Assam who sacrificed their lives during that war. Assam Governor Professor Jagdish Mukhi will attend the program as the guest of honour, and Assam Chief Minister Dr. Hemant Biswa Sarma will also attend the program. There are several officers and personnel from Assam who played a catalyst role in the Bangladesh Liberation War, and they trained and equipped the Mukti Bahini fighters to take on the Pakistani army.
The Union Home Minister Amit Shah will address Vijay Utsav celebrations at Jagdishpur in Bhojpur district of Bihar today. The event has been organized to commemorate victory over Britishers by the great Indian freedom fighter Veer Kumar Singh on 23rd April 1858. Veer Kumar Singh led the Indian Rebellion of 1857. More from a correspondent.
Vijay Utsav is being organized under the ongoing Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav to make the young generation aware of the heroic deeds of Veer Kumar Singh and his fight against the British East India Company. The BJP workers in Bihar have planned to bring together people from 12 districts and organize a collective waving of more than 75,000 national flags at Jagdishpur to register a Guinness World Record today. A huge pandal of 3 lakh square feet has been erected at Dulor Maidan at Jagdishpur for the convenience of people. All historic moments pertaining to the valor of Veer Kumar Singh will be displayed at the venue. Krishna Kumar Lal, AIR News, Jagdishpur, Ara.
All India Radio News has launched a new weekly interactive program Abhiyas for competitive examinations. It is aimed at reaching out to students and job seekers preparing for competitive examinations. The program is in Hindi and is broadcast every Saturday between 9:30 to 10 p.m. Every week a subject is chosen. Students can ask questions through WhatsApp or email, and a guest speaker or expert responds to the queries. Questions on each subject are selected on the basis of crowdsourcing from the students across the country. The program also includes segments like Explainer, Fact File, Examination Calendar, and Question of the Week. The fourth episode of the program will be aired today. The topic for this episode is economics. All India Radio News has got an overwhelming response for the show with questions received from across the country. Dr. Mallika Kumar, Associate Professor for Economics at the Sri Ram College of Commerce, New Delhi, will be responding to the queries of the aspirants. The fourth episode of Abhyas will be on air on 100.1 FM Gold at 9:30 p.m. today. You can access it on Twitter @AIR News Alerts or on AIR News official YouTube channel and also on News on AIR app. Also, for the next episode on April 30th, the subject chosen is sociology. Students can send their queries on WhatsApp number 9289094044 or mail on abhyas.air@gmail.com. The deadline for submission of questions is 27th April. So join us at All India Radio News for the Abhyas every Saturday at 9:30 p.m. on 100.1 FM Gold.
कंपटीशन की अगर आप कर रहे हैं तैयारी तो उनके लिए ऑल इंडिया रेडियो पर हम लाए हैं अभ्यास, एक ऐसा कार्यक्रम जिसमें आप पूछेंगे सवाल व्हाट्सएप नंबर 9289094044 पर या फिर ईमेल करेंगे abhyas.airnews@gmail.com पर और हमारे विशेषज्ञ देंगे इसका जवाब। आपका अभ्यास हमारा प्रयास।
You're listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds bilateral talks with his British counterpart Boris Johnson. Two leaders decide to conclude free trade agreement by the end of this year. India and UK signed 6 MOUs. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman discusses COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine conflict with World Bank President. Chief Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra urges Indian diaspora to register as overseas voters. Delhi government issues guidelines to prevent spread of COVID in schools. Dr. Suman Keberi appointed new Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog. Supreme Court rejects Maharashtra Minister and NCP leader Nawab Malik's bail plea in a money laundering case. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow next week over Ukraine war. And in IPL cricket, Rajasthan Royals beat Delhi Capitals by 15 runs in Mumbai. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
अपने बिजनेस को बढ़ाने के लिए लीजिए आकाशवाणी का सहयोग और दीजिए उसे बुलंदियों के पंख।
आपका बिजनेस लोकल है या राष्ट्रीय, आकाशवाणी देती है उपभोक्ताओं तक पहुंचने का हर विकल्प।
और अब तो आप घर, दफ्तर या दुकान पर बैठे बैठे कर सकते हैं आकाशवाणी के किसी भी केंद्र के लिए विज्ञापनों की बुकिंग।
आकाशवाणी के विभिन्न चैनलों पर विज्ञापन देना सुलभ और सस्ता।
बुकिंग है तो संपर्क करें 8700014242 पर
8700014242।
Welcome back. You're listening to the morning news. In view of the recent surge in COVID-19 cases in the national capital, Delhi government has issued standard operating procedure to curb the spread of COVID infection in schools. The SOP outlines various precautionary measures to be adopted in the schools to prevent the spread of COVID-19 infection. As per the guidelines, head of schools are advised to ensure that all the eligible students, teaching and non-teaching staff, as well as support staff of the school is vaccinated, and it should be done at the top priority. They have been asked to ensure that all students and guests wear masks and also ensure regular sanitization of the school premises and adequate availability of thermal scanners, disinfectants, sanitizers, soaps and masks. India's COVID vaccination coverage has crossed 187 crore 44 lakh mark. Health and Family Welfare Ministry said that more than 17 lakh vaccine doses were administered yesterday. The ministry said more than 2 crore 84 lakh vaccine doses have been administered to 12 to 14 years age group so far.
The national capital reported 1,042 new COVID cases yesterday. According to the health bulletin issued by the Delhi government, active cases in the national capital currently stand at 3,253. The daily case positivity rate of the city stands at 4.64%. Dr. Suman K. Bery has been appointed as the new Vice Chairperson of Niti Aayog. He will take charge as Vice Chairperson of Niti Aayog from the 1st of next month. In an order, Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions said that Vice Chairperson of Niti Aayog, Dr. Rajiv Kumar, will be relieved from his post on the 30th of this month. Dr. Suman K. Bery had earlier served as Director General of the National Council of Applied Economic Research, NCAER, in New Delhi. NCAER is one of the country's leading independent non-profit policy research institutions. The Supreme Court has rejected bail plea of Maharashtra Minister and NCP leader Nawab Malik in the money laundering case. While rejecting the bail petition, a bench of Justices D.Y. Chandrachud and Surya Kant said the probe is at a nascent stage. The apex court said it will not interfere with the Bombay High Court order of March 15, but Malik can avail the remedy available under the law before the trial court. Senior advocate Kapil Sibal, appearing before Malik, said Enforcement Directorate has arrested him in 2022 for something that happened in 1999. Meanwhile, a special court in Mumbai has extended till May 6 the judicial custody of Nawab Malik in the money laundering and terror funding case. Enforcement Directorate had arrested Malik on 23rd February in the case registered under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act.
And now, let's listen to a special program, Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव।
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News, birth of a nation.
India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of the struggle every day.
"23rd April is remembered as Kongjom Day in Manipur every year to pay tribute to the war heroes of the Anglo-Manipuri War 1891.
Manipuri people resented British interference in the internal affairs of Manipur. In March 1891, the British Army fired the first shot at Kangla with an objective of arresting Yuvaraj Tikendrajit. After the whole day's fighting on the 24th of March, the British declared a ceasefire. A meeting was called at Kangla between the representatives of people and the British administration.
For a darbar to be held, 5 British officers were sent. When the talks failed, the Manipuri people attacked the British delegation. Knowing the serious situation of the British in Manipur, 3 powerful regiments of the British Army were sent via Silchar, Kohima and Tamil. To resist the advancing British column from Tamil, 700 Manipuris were sent to Thoibal under Wangkherakpa and Yenkhoiba Major.
At this critical time, the Maharaja sent 400 sepoys under the leadership of Pauna Brajbasi and Chongtha Mia Singh to oppose the British forces. But the Manipuri forces were outnumbered and the enemy was superior in arms too. When the war began, powerful British guns had fatal impacts at the fort of Manipur, but the gallant Manipuri warriors fought till their last breath to safeguard the territory and independence of Manipur.
Manipur built 3 defensive places to fight against the invaders. The first one was at Palel, the second at Kakching, and the third was at Kongjom. Many Manipuris, including Pukramba Tanka, Kumbong Subedar, Leizang Jamadar, and Athokpa Diwan, sacrificed their lives. 2 Thankuls were also among those killed in hand-to-hand fight. On the 27th of April 1891, the British forces occupied Kangla. The hero of the battle, Major Pauna Brajbashi, is being honoured by the Manipuris as the epitome of patriotism and bravery.
Till his last breath, he refused to surrender and bravely chose death over serving the British. Among others who fought gallantly in the battle were Major Chongtham Mia, Chinglen Sana, Khumbong Major, Loitongba Jamadar, Kaisa Jamadar, Heirang Kongja, and many more.
The heroism of the gallant warriors is being passed down through generations in the form of a traditional ballad, Kongjam Parva. Every year, on the 23rd of April, the whole state of Manipur pays homage to those great warriors at the Kongjam War Memorial Complex. The solemn memorial is situated about 35 kilometers south of Imphal in Thoubal district, at the site where the battle was fought between Manipuri and the British. It stands there as a living symbol of the spirit of patriotism and heroism of the Manipuris.
जो मरवानो सीखी ले तो जीवन नो अधिकार तने जो कंटक ने रस्ते चाले फूलो नो सरकार तने.
We also pay tribute to Vittal Bhai, resident of Surat, Gujarat. He was a school teacher at Bardoli. Vittal Bhai took part in the Forest Satyagraha 1930 and was also involved in the Salt Satyagraha April 1930. While participating in the Salt Satyagraha at Navsari, he was fatally injured in a police lathi charge. He was admitted to a hospital at Navsari where he breathed his last on the 23rd of April 1930.
We also remember Rao Singh. Rao Singh was a soldier in the Ludhiana regiment of British Indian Army. He took leading part in 1857 War of Independence against the British rule. He was captured by the British soldiers and charged with mutiny and sedition. Rao Singh was sentenced to death and hanged on the 23rd of April 1858. AIR News salutes the brave martyr.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
Railway Minister Ashwani Vaishnav flagged off Visakhapatnam Koraput daily passenger train from Koraput railway station in Odisha. The regular run of the train will commence from today. More from a correspondent.
During his day-long visit to Koraput and Malkangiri, two of the aspirational districts in Odisha yesterday, the Railway Minister reviewed many rail projects, including the Malkangiri-Bhadrachalam rail line. More than 173 kilometers long, this rail line has been sanctioned by the Railway Board in September last year with an estimated cost of 2,800 crore rupees. The survey work for this rail connectivity project, for which there was a public demand, is targeted to be completed by June this year. During his visit to the remote Malkangiri district of the state, Mr. Vaishnav, who is also the Minister for Communications, Electronics and Information Technology, inaugurated the new building of the headquarters post office at Malkangiri and a couple of post offices in 3 other districts of the state through the virtual mode. Girish Chandra Das, AIR News, Bhubaneswar.
In Himachal Pradesh, 92.9% of rural households have been connected with tap water supply. Since the launch of the Jal Jeevan Mission, 8.42 lakh more households have been provided with tap water connections. Our correspondent reports that all schools, Anganwadi centres, Gram Panchayats and community health centres in the state have achieved 100% tap water supply under the Jal Jeevan Mission.
With the active participation of people, especially women and rural communities, the Jal Jeevan Mission has become a Jan Andolan in the state. More than 16,04,000 houses out of 17,27,518 rural households have been connected with tap water supply under the mission so far, whereas 4 district 24 blocks, 2,312 gram panchayats and 14,590 villages of the state have become Har Ghar Jal. Despite the difficult geographical condition, tap have also been installed in all the houses in the tribal districts of Kinnaur and Lahaul Spiti and the dry regions of Una and Chamba district. Chamba district, the only aspiration district in Himachal Pradesh, has become the 100th Har Ghar Jal district in the country. On the other hand, more than 17,000 schools, all Anganwadi Center, Gram Panchayats and community health centers of the state have 100% tap water supply. Sanjeev Sundaryal, AIR News, Shimla.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres will visit Moscow on 26th of April for a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The announcement of his visit came amid ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Guterres will have a working meeting and lunch with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Moscow. The United Nations Secretary General will also be received by President Vladimir Putin. UN Associate Spokesperson Eri Kaneko said that Guterres hopes to talk about what can be done to bring peace to Ukraine urgently. In efforts to end the war in Ukraine, the UN chief had written separate letters to the leaders of Russia and Ukraine, requesting to meet with each of them in their respective capitals.
In IPL cricket, Rajasthan Royals defeated Delhi Capitals by 15 runs at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai last night. Chasing a victory target of 223, Delhi Capitals scored 207 for 8 in the stipulated 20 overs. Today, Kolkata Knight Riders would face Gujarat Titans at the Dr. D.Y. Patil Stadium in Navi Mumbai at 3:30 p.m., while Royal Challengers Bangalore lock horns against Sunrisers Hyderabad at Brabant Stadium in Mumbai at 7:30 p.m.
In football, Kerala stormed into the semi-finals of Santosh Trophy with a 2-1 win over Punjab at the Payanad Stadium in Manjari last night. Kerala captain Jijo Joseph netted twice, while Manveer Singh scored the solo goal for Punjab. Today, Karnataka will face Manipur at Malappuram at 4 p.m. Odisha will take on Gujarat at Manjari at 8 p.m.
Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. The national capital Delhi will have strong surface winds during the daytime. The minimum temperature is 23 degrees Celsius, while the maximum is expected to be around 39 degrees. Mumbai will have mainly clear sky. Chennai is likely to have partly cloudy sky. Kolkata is likely to have partly cloudy sky. Visakhapatnam will have generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Hyderabad will have rain or thunder showers towards evening. Bangalore will have partly cloudy sky. The minimum temperature is 22 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be around 35 degrees. Thiruvananthapuram will have partly cloudy sky with possibility of moderate rain or thunderstorm. Guwahati may have generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Imphal is expected to have generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. And Shillong will have generally cloudy sky with a few spells of rain or thunder showers. And Aizawl is expected to have generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain. Kohima will have generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain. Itanagar will have generally cloudy sky with few spells of rain or thunder showers. Temperature will hover between 16 and 32 degrees Celsius. Gangtok will have partly cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain. And Agartala will have generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. The minimum temperature is expected to be around 25 degrees Celsius and the maximum will be around 35 degrees.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's India visit and the Modi-Johnson meeting dominates headlines this morning. India-UK sets Diwali deadline for concluding Free Trade Pact, reports Business Standard. India-UK agree to scale up defence ties. Inc. FTA leads the pioneer. In a related news, the Statesman leads PM's call for cessation of war in Ukraine, adding the two leaders expressed their concern about the ongoing conflict. US pledges to help India end its dependence on Russian weapons, informs the Times of India. Postal ballot for NRIs being contemplated, says the Hindu. The paper writes CEC urges members of Indian community to register as overseas electors. Delhi police asks ED to probe Jahangirpuri riots, reports the Asian Age. Jabs for 5 to 11 age group only after not from expert group, reports Business Line. And finally, Business Standard reports that tax filing mandatory now if TDS or TCS is 25,000 rupees or more. Move aims to detect discrepancies between expenses and incomes.
And now, before I end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds bilateral talks with his British counterpart Boris Johnson. Two leaders decide to conclude free trade agreement by the end of this year. India and UK sign 6 MOUs. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman discusses COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine conflict with World Bank President. Chief Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra urges Indian diaspora to register as overseas voters. Delhi government issues guidelines to prevent spread of COVID in schools. Dr. Suman K. Berry appointed new Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog. Supreme Court rejects Maharashtra Minister and NCP leader Nawab Malik's bail plea in money laundering case. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow next week over Ukraine war. And in IPL cricket, Rajasthan Royals beat Delhi Capitals by 15 runs in Mumbai. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.